Looking back at the previous 2 years has been difficult for me. 2020 was a huge blow to my mentality because it had challenged my problems with codependency. 2021 was even harder on me, making me realize the truth of those who are and aren't my friends, and making me change how I approach and talk to others. And where I did make a list ranking all of the figures last year, I didn't get around to finishing recording the video. Looking back at all of the challenges I faced that year, I realized that those challenges were a blessing in disguise. I don't say this for the sake of trying to be positive. I've merely realized that without the effects of those 2 years, I wouldn't have made it to where I did in 2022. For those who don't know, I am a Muslim, and last year I had become more spiritually practiced and knowledgeable about Islam, and as a result, improved my connection with Allah. I have also become a part-time editor, first working with my good friend Geekdom101. It was through him giving me a chance to work with him that led me into also editing for Rising Fist, SSJ Goshen 4, and most recently, Gamer Goku. And to all of them, I want to give a huge thank you for having me work on your videos. It has been a pleasure working with all of you. I am also partnered with Daredevil19 on the Plastic Power podcast. He will be helping out on the video today. Also, shout out to the good people in my Discord server for sending pictures to help out in this video. If anyone here would like to join my server, the link will be down below. Finally, a thank you to Champ Animations for editing this video, since I'm probably gonna be too busy helping out others.
Really well said, Starblast. But could we actually get into the list?
Yeah, anyways, let's get started.
Number 20, Relish Broly, event exclusive. Relish.
Wait a second, I'm getting a flashback from another video.
Oh my god, what happened to his face? Ooh, thought it would be a good idea to use mustard instead of paint. If Super Saiyan 3 was the mustard,
Oh no.
then this dude is the ketchup!
This figure may come with official alternate faces for his Super Saiyan form, but let's just say this repaint wasn't the right one.
Broly is the relish!
Number 19, Kefla.
As a collector, this figure is super annoying.
I didn't get this figure, so I'll let you have this one.
It's a really skinny figure with really fragile joints. The arms are needlessly complicated to move around, and the joints holding the arms are really small and don't always function as intended. Not to mention that this figure was released at the time that Vietnam quality was still very problematic. I had an issue with mine where the wrists disconnected from each other like it was a bootleg. Then, to top it off, the legs are really outdated. They use that really old drop-down method with this one, and it hurts the figure because the joints are small and fragile. Plus, the knees look really bad when you use them. You know S.H.Figuarts messed up when Figma has better looking knee joints than the ones they used here.
God, that sounds horrible. Well, at least the faces look good, and it does come with some cool effect pieces.
What you just said are the only things I can give credit to. Unfortunately, there's other issues. This figure has a hard time standing up because of the hair being so top-heavy. And it doesn't help that they made this figure skinnier than it needed to be. XWE, if you're watching this, I commend you for being able to animate with this thing.
Number 18, Shenron, event exclusive.
I love the original Shenron. It's a beautiful display piece, and this event exclusive repaint looks great.
Yeah, but the only thing new here is the paint. Plus, with it being such a big figure, I can't imagine anyone with the old Shenron release wanting to pick this up.
True, it does cater to a very specific set of people who like their figures with a shiny metallic look. I dig this repaint. The figure isn't a necessity.
Out of all of the characters they could have picked for an event exclusive, I don't understand why they picked Shenron. From my understanding, the original one didn't sell very well because of the $130 price point. With its insane size, it's really made for those hardcore SHF collectors and Dragon Ball fans.
Number 17, Fat Boo, event exclusive.
Another event exclusive that was pretty much for collectors who missed out on the original Fat Boo release. Except here, the paint differences are so minor that I don't see why they'd make this an exclusive.
The accessories are exactly the same as the old, and there's really nothing new here. It doesn't look bad, but it was an easy pass for me. But why is this figure ranked higher than Shenron?
Because this figure is an actual figure. But if you had the original Majin Buu, it's such an easy pass due to the changes here being so subtle. Why bother making this an event exclusive if you're going to barely change anything?
Well, to play devil's advocate, if they made the exclusive something that people actually wanted, like Super Saiyan 2 or Ultra Instinct Goku, the fans would have complained at how hard it is to get the figure.
Well, I guess that's true. Moving on.
Number 16, Armored Krillin.
This one here, the Armored Krillin, aka Funko Pop Krillin, a lot of people weren't too happy with.
And I can't blame them. This figure could have been handled so much better. There's so many problems with this that I almost had this figure as the worst on this list. I don't even know where to begin with the issues on this thing.
Well, let me help you out with that. So as I mentioned before, they made his head a bit too big. It's a missed opportunity to make the 2.0 Krillin's heads swappable with this figure.
Yeah, and the body is significantly smaller than the 2.0 Krillin figure, which I find to be really unnecessary. Because of that, the legs, arms, and torso are really stubby in comparison, making this figure significantly less movable than the 2.0. And because of the larger head and the really bad ankle articulation, it makes the figure hard to stand and balance on any shelf.
They were trying to make this Krillin more like how he looked in the manga, but with it being put in figure form, it doesn't function well. Not to mention the QC issues with the tight Vietnam joints, making it even harder to move.
I wish that was it, but it gets even worse. These Funko Pop heads barely have any variety. He comes with a neutral face and a stern face. First of all, these two faces are barely any different. I get they wanted to have a face that replicated one of the manga images of him being with Gohan, but was the other one really necessary? Then if that wasn't enough, they do the exact same thing with the screaming faces. One is meant for when he uses the solar flare, and the other one was from before he died to Frieza. Look at these. They're barely any different from each other. You could have taken one of these identical heads and replaced it with a happy Krillin expression or a scared one when he saw that Frieza was alive. What?
That is such a letdown. It's like they didn't think about how the figure would function, and instead thought about how it would look. And it doesn't help that the price was raised from being a Premium Bandai exclusive. Jeez, Premium Bandai really stinks.
Number 15, Dragon Ball Super Superhero Goku.
I think this figure makes me bipolar. I love the paint apps on the gi, but my gosh, is the plastic shiny.
I see what you mean. You can really tell that they worked hard trying to make this figure's facial expressions full of life. It correctly portrays Goku from the superhero and Broly movies.
Yeah, and the gi is up there with the best in terms of colors for all of the Goku figures we've had. But it's such a shame that the production for this figure holds it back from being higher on this list. With the skin being pale, it makes whatever head swap you do on this figure inconsistent with the other faces.
Yeah, and I don't understand why the skin tone is so shiny. This wasn't a problem on any of the other superhero figures we've gotten so far.
And a major issue that seems to be universal is the feel of the plastic. It feels like the full Dookie Super Saiyan Goku, with it going as far as having the same problematic loose legs on the figure. Then, there's this universal issue with the hands having this giant seam going through the plastic on each of them. And one other issue on mine was the plastic chunks hanging off of the fingers. Like, this is such bootleg quality and not what you expect from Tamashii Nations.
All of that considered, we felt that the figure was still pretty decent despite the issues. It looks very cool on the shelf with the other figures, at least when you have it in good lighting, and it still poses well with the other figures you may have.
Number 14, Armored Kid Gohan.
This Kid Gohan is actually really nice. It's pretty much like the regular Kid Gohan, but of course, the Saiyan armor version.
Yeah, and I really like the alternate hair that they gave him. Though it does suffer from the shiny plastic syndrome, it allows for the poses with this figure to become much more dynamic.
Now, this figure does have a bit of that Vietnam QC issue with a lot of its copies, so you may have a few present on yours.
My biggest issue with this figure is that it's significantly overpriced. Premium Bandai significantly raises the prices on their figures and as a result hurts the overall value for your dollar. In the US, the original Kid Gohan went for $52 USD without shipping and tax. This Gohan, for whatever reason, is priced at $60. When you're including the shipping and taxes, you're paying somewhere within $77 to $80 for this depending on your state. I don't think it's a bad figure, but when you're paying for a figure that is this small, it doesn't feel worth the money that you're putting into it.
There's no way this figure is going to be well accepted in the aftermarket. The pricing is a nightmare, and this type of P Bandai pricing has been going on far too long.
Number 13, Android 16.
I think this was one of the better repaints this year. They did a good job with the new color scheme, and the original Android 16 was getting pricey on the secondary market.
But Tamashii Nations definitely needs to make us an updated 2.0 or 3.0 Android 16, cause it is needed badly.
Well, hopefully, if they make a 3.0 version, we get some blast effects with his arm cannons. The articulation is the same as the original, which still holds up decently, and it fits great with your other updated event-exclusive androids.
Blast effects for the arm cannons would be perfect. Would also like to see them make them a little bit bigger, but even though we just got a repaint for now, it still turned out great. The original body mold still holds up decently to this day, and if I'm a new collector, I would buy this, because eventually you would need an Android 16 to go with your Android 17 and 18.
Yeah, because of the fact that this figure is a repaint, it does suffer from the lack of accessories, but like we said, hopefully a 3.0 will be made in the future.
Number 12, Lab Coat 21. I thought I was Android 21.
So admittedly, none of us actually got this figure.
Bro, I was supposed to get this figure, but I somehow missed the email from Bandai Battle Hour to confirm my purchase, and I am salty.
Based on reviews I've seen, this figure looks pretty solid. It has some interchangeable faces with removable glasses that you can swap on each face, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, they've significantly improved this figure in comparison to their Majin 21. She has a lot more articulation, comes with interchangeable crossed arms, and the paintwork looks really good.
Pretty sure the main issue people have with this figure is once again the high heels. With Majin 21, at least you had the tail to help balance it. But obviously, you don't get that here. The hair makes her top heavy as well. Plus, as someone who doesn't like plastic capes or coats, the lab coat specifically bothers me.
Well, to be fair, they would have had to make the whole lab coat into a cloth piece if they were going to go that route. I don't recall ever seeing Tamashii do that.
You know what, sir? You are correct. Let's move on to the next figure, shall we?
Out of the way, monkey!
Yeah!
Number 11, Final Form Frieza, Premium Color Edition.
Frieza? What are you doing here?
Great figure, but it's just a repaint. Don't get me wrong, because it's fantastic. I love it, but it's mainly just for collectors who are new to the line.
Yeah, the detail is great, and the colors for the repaint may be the best objective colors for it out of the three counterparts of Frieza.
With this figure, you pretty much get everything with the last Final Form Frieza, minus the tail that wraps around Vegeta's neck, and the effect pieces with this one.
Despite that, it still comes with a bunch of accessories, and for the $35 price point, it's a great value for your dollar.
With that being said, Star Blast, it's time to get into the top 10 Dragon Ball S.H.Figuarts of 2022.
Let's go!
Number 10, Zarbon, the most elegant figure.
There's a reason this figure made it into the number 10 spot out of all of the figures that was released. And that's because it's a really fun figure and an entirely new sculpt.
And it came out pretty accurate to the anime. But Star Blast, that cape is so bad. Plus, he was a premium Bandai exclusive, and we both know how we feel about that.
I definitely know how you feel about that, especially with the plastic cape. But anyways, another issue is that the figure I got has super loose joints on the shoulder pad pieces. I'm starting to think this is a universal issue because, well, Daredevil, you and me had the exact same problems with it.
I know, but it's not the end of the world because I don't think I'm gonna be posing my figure upside down too much. Oh my.
Well, yeah, that's true. But where this figure does have pretty decent articulation, one thing it falls short in is the paintwork. The armor looks really plain and basic. and the only area there's shading is on your favorite plastic cape.
That's right! It's like they're taking a personal shot at me because they know I love paint shading on their figures and absolutely dislike hard plastic capes.
Yeah, I'm sure Tamashii Nations were thinking of you when they made that cape. Don't you feel special?
Damn you, Tamashii Nation!
Number 9, Super Saiyan 2, Goku, event exclusive.
This release caught us both totally off guard. We expected them to make a Super Saiyan 2 Goku, but not as an event exclusive.
Yeah, I really expected this release to be the $35 Goku of this year, but obviously that turned out to be the superhero version, which did not come out nearly as good. This figure is super fun, and you don't just get the same accessories. The Super Saiyan 2 hair sculpt was done beautifully, and the tear on his clothing is chef's kiss.
I just hate that they made this into an event exclusive, because now it's that much harder to get. Back to the figure, that shading is a beaut. Love how vibrant the orange on his gi is.
And are we going to ignore the aura effect? That piece looks amazing. Love the interchangeable electricity effects they added around it. Now that is how you do an aura.
Number 8, Dragon Ball Super Superhero, Vegeta. Haha, I'm higher than Kakarot.
Overall, this is a pretty solid release. For $35, this Vegeta came out very well. I'm pretty picky with the sculpt on the torso, but otherwise the CGI look really complements Vegeta's aesthetics in figure form.
Yeah, with that $35 price tag for an S.H.Figuarts Dragon Ball figure, you can really never go wrong.
Well, that's not true because Full Dookie Super Saiyan Goku exists.
Oh yeah, your mortal enemy! But anyways, a minor issue we both had was with the torso. I know you had an issue with yours getting locked in place when you moved the ab crunch forward. I don't have that same problem, but there is plastic rubbing on mine.
Yeah, it is a minor issue, but not a deal breaker considering it only seems to do that on mine. But I know people have been needing an updated base form Vegeta, and this figure gives you just that.
Number 7 is Dodoria, but I'm beautiful. How did he rank higher than me?
Ah, man. So we had a hard time deciding where to put him on the list.
So we posed the figure around and noticed that it's a better release than a bunch of the other figures this past year. Where this figure lacks in paint apps like Zarbon, the sculpting and the facial expressions are fantastic.
The one downside to this figure is that it's a premium Bandai exclusive, but it's one of those figures where it doesn't suffer nearly as much in terms of value for your dollar. Some people may be picky about the articulation, which is understandable, but considering it's a very oval-like torso, there wasn't much they could do about that. Besides, he moves around into all of the relevant poses he did in the show anyways.
Yeah, and here's a fun fact before I forget. This year actually had 7 regular releases, 7 premium Bandai releases, and 6 event exclusives. So there were a total of 13 exclusives and 7 regular releases in 2022.
That is insane. They seriously need to chill out with that. But overall, you do get your money's worth with Dodoria. We both like the figure so much he almost made the top 5.
Number 6, Dragon Ball Super Superhero Piccolo.
Here is another great release, an addition not only this year, but to this line.
This is very close to the 2.0 Piccolo we've gotten, but this version is far more accurate to the Dragon Ball Super superhero movie and the manga colors for Piccolo. Tamashii Nations are really doing some nice work on the engineering with these newer figures.
I know some collectors passed on this since they have the 2.0 Piccolo that recently released, but thanks to that 2.0 Piccolo, we were able to get this Piccolo for that $35 price tag.
Yeah, and thankfully he doesn't suffer from the same lipstick problem, and the facial expressions come out very accurately. I loved how this figure came out, and it definitely redeemed the old Piccolo figure we got back in 2021.
Number 5, First Form Cell.
This is a highly anticipated figure that a lot of collectors couldn't wait to get their hands on.
Yeah, we've waited patiently for this figure. Tamashii Nations did a pretty damn good job on this Imperfect Cell, but we did have similar QC issues.
Yeah, there's been a universal issue with the super tight joints on a bunch of people's copies. And the most common one is the right arm being really tight. Like, man, this is really tight.
That's what she said.
I also had another small QC issue because I got two of the same faces when one face should have been looking to the side.
I looked at mine and the face is looking to the side, but it's much more subtle. It reminds me of the issue with the Majin Vegeta figure that they released a while back. For articulation, it is good and all, but I don't want to move the joints that are so tight they squeak when the joint... What? What did you type for me?
It might have been a rushed one.
For articulation, it is good and all, but I don't want to move the joints that are so tight that they squeak and make me fearful that they're going to snap and break.
God, that's scary just thinking about it. And we do not want that to happen. But besides that, the figure was executed beautifully.
Yeah, and don't forget all of the sculpted black specks all over this figure. Because of the fact of this entirely new mold, it is the reason as to why this beat Piccolo in this list.
Number 4, Android 18 Tournament of Power. And 3, Android 17 Tournament of Power. Androids. So many androids. I need them to rank higher on the list.
The Tournament of Power variants of Android 17 and 18 were released late December of 2021. They released much later in the US in 2022, which is why they got transferred over to this year's list. Unfortunately, I missed out on them, but I know you have them, Starblast.
Yes, I do, and boy do I love these figures. You can't have one without having the other. The articulation on both of them are fantastic, and they come with an abundance of accessories, making them really fun to pose.
Yeah, and from what I've seen, these were actually much better priced on Premium Bandai than a lot of the other figures they put up on there. With them selling for about $60, what you get is worth it.
They're very similar in engineering, hence why they both feel similar as figures. Perfect since the two characters are twins. They both come with one blast effect and windy hair pieces. There are unique accessories to each of these figures as well, with 18 coming with a piece to make it look as if she has her hands in her pockets. 17 comes with a big green force field punching effect, which made him higher on the list than 18.
As for issues, the only thing I see people complain about is the type of plastic used on the faces. It really messes with the overall look of the figure's facial expressions.
Yeah, it really does knock them down a peg, and compared to the issues on the other figures this year, it's very minor. However, because they were a premium Bandai release, it allowed this next figure to rank higher on this list.
Number 2, Dragon Ball Super Superhero Ultimate Gohan.
Personally, both of us wanted to put this Gohan at number 1, but another figure beat it out by a Saiyan hair.
This Gohan has the updated body mold in the form of 3.0 articulation. I think Tamashii Nations wanted to make collectors happy with this figure, and boy, did they do so.
This figure looks like they took Gohan directly out of the movie into figure form. The articulation moves so fluidly, and you can get Gohan into some nice dynamic poses. I adore how they engineered the butterfly and shoulder joints. Seems like we're finally beginning to move past the old piece of clothing hanging off the back of the shoulder issue.
Yeah, and the faces literally look exactly like Gohan. Tamashii Nations has been fantastic with their face sculpts throughout the year, and not only with just their Dragon Ball line. And did I forget to mention that it retailed for about $35, $40?
That price point is amazing. As for any issues, I only have two with this figure. First, the head sits really low on the neck, making it look disproportionate. Though if you are to put the figure in a specific pose, you'll hardly see that as a problem. The only other thing I wish this figure had was a smirking face. I can't really fault them for that since Gohan didn't smirk in the movie while in this form, but I still would have liked to have it. This is the closest figure we've gotten to an updated Buu Saga Ultimate Gohan, and I would have liked to see the facial expression when he told Buu he'd kill him.
Who knows? Maybe they'll make it one of the exclusives this year.
You know, you may have just predicted one of the next exclusives. Just like many had predicted this next figure as number 1.
Number 1 under the sun, that's 2.0 Krillin.
We'll start this off by saying this is the definitive version of Krillin. Everything about the figure is the reason why we love action figures.
Yeah, even though the armored Krillin didn't turn out as good, At least we got a Krillin this past year that blew all the other releases out of the water. Other than the shiny plastic, this figure is dang near perfect.
Yeah, the articulation is great, and something I absolutely loved is they updated the sleeves on his gi using the 3.0 engineering. That's one of the things that easily sold me on the figure.
Don't forget how much better the Destructo disc is this time around, and the faceplates capture Krillin's expressions perfectly.
The price of Krillin was also a huge plus with a $45 price tag, and we get a new sculpt, the updated articulation, and all those accessories for under 50 bucks.
Yeah, that price point for Krillin really made him skip ahead of not just Gohan, but all of the figures on the list this year. Releasing that effect piece along with this figure really made him take the spot.
Yeah, and the one thing I wish could have come with Krillin is a smile or laughing face. This was one of the expressions that they included on the 1.0, and I would have loved to have seen it here.
I completely get where you're coming from. The biggest issue I personally had was that the head seemed to have this seam that goes across the top. But that issue is easily forgettable when you start posing this figure around. He has great articulation, good sculpting, nice paint apps, and accessories to satisfy those who pick up this figure. Also, he comes with a Senzu bean bag.
A Senzu bean bag too? They didn't have to do all that, but I'm glad they did. It's the little things that count.
That being said, Krillin takes the #1 spot on this list, and we hope that you enjoyed this video.
Yes, Star Blast, please continue to talk about how marvelous I am.
Hey, all right! Way to go, Krillin! I've never seen you be #1 before.
Thanks, Goku. You're a real pal.
Aw, come on! What did I do? Was it something I said?
Do you have any last words before we close out, Daredevil?
Yeah, I had a great time putting this list together, and 2022 wasn't the best year for the Dragon Ball S.H.Figuarts line, but there was some great releases, and really looking forward to what is going to release this year.
Yeah, it's really funny that you say that, because anytime that I've experienced a bad year, the Figuarts line was doing really good, but now that I've actually had a pretty decent year, it kind of come out subpar. But, that is what it is. I'm glad that, we've got through 2022 with our heads still intact, and I hope that you guys did enjoy this video, and I hope that next year treats all of you well. And a huge thank you to the Dub for voicing all of the characters in this countdown. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you guys in the comment section. Until then.
Alrighty, guys, and that does it for Star Blast Studios' S.H.Figuarts Countdown. And hey, while I got you here, if you like this video, make sure to smash that like button for me. And for even more amazing content, subscribe to the channel. And I'm always checking it out to keep an eye on this guy. Thanks for watching. Bye!